Hi guys, welcome back. So England win 8 straight games against Australia in a row. It's not an absolute classic. England weren't flowing for a lot of it, but really they were comfortable. They were the better team, even though Australia kept it pretty close on the scoreboard until the end. Australia, they'll be disappointed. They didn't play that well. Loads of mistakes, loads of penalties, and also starting to run out of players a bit on this tour. So anyway, let's get into the game. I'll try and mix it up with a bit of commentary on what happened, the key events, and also my comments and my analysis of the game. And as always, guys, pop your comments below because I'd love to know what you think. Now, the first error of the game was England's. A silly blocking penalty gives an easy shot at goal for Australia, so they go 3-0 up. It's the same sort of blocking penalty that was called against England versus Tonga, although indeed Australia give one back later on. And as the game goes on, about 5 minutes in, Freddie Stewart already looking super assured in the air. And it's not just that he catches the ball, it's the way he leaps in the air with his height, his technique. It is just a thing of beauty. Really impressive, both last game and this game. Then we get a lovely team try. Now, England mixing it up an awful lot. Forward tips. Laws was very good at this in this game and last game. He was impressive. They're mixing up first receiver. Farrell's in at first receiver. Smith is deep, and he puts Stewart through the gap. Sees there's space in behind and doesn't give the pass out wide and canters over. So that's great start for Stewart, aerially and scoring a try. 7-3, nice start for England. And then they get that mirror image blocking penalty that Australia give away, so they go 10-3 ahead. So both sides in this game did give each other easy points. At times it looked like it was Christmas a little bit. They were giving penalties backwards and forwards, although Australia gave away plenty more. Now a note as well, about 15 minutes in, Tuolangi isn't playing on the wing. I don't quite know where he's playing. He's basically living in midfield, either there from set piece or he moves in there. Smith goes out or Slade goes out. It seems a bit unnecessarily complicated when all you really have to do is play either Farrell or Smith at 10. England are basically playing 3 centres, but I don't quite see the need for it. Anyway, pop your comments on that below. I'd love to know what you think. Hooper's on a bit of a mission, so he wins a solo penalty straight from kickoff to get the points back to 10-6, and that's what Australia did pretty well in this first half. They kept in touch, even though England were looking the better team. England have given Australia 6 soft points, and Australia have given England points too, so hey, it's all fair really, I guess. On 15 minutes, Underhill and Curry are busting tackles, and to be fair to Curry, he carried really well. Curry carried really well, and at times actually looked a bit like a number 8. I still think it's better him at 7, but he carried really well. So that sort of carrying plus him being a 7 would be great. But anyway, Underhill played okay again, although he did have to go off later on. But again, seems unnecessary. Play Curry at 7, play Don Brandt at 8, play either Farrell or Smith at 10. It seems pretty obvious to everyone who's commented, apart from Eddie Jones. But hey, that's how it tends to go with him. On 60 minutes, Curry breaks off the back of a maul, plays a lovely long spin pass off his left hand actually, hits Tuolangi, using the midfield. They get a penalty, another easy 3 points, 13-6. And England, feeling generous, give Australia 3 points straight back. Very friendly stuff. England's defence definitely looks to have a little bit of edge on it. The scrum seems to have a bit of edge as well, although not completely dominant. I think the England scrum definitely came out on top, especially considering there was a number of youngsters in there. Rod scrummaged pretty well. It looks like he's got a scrum cap on, a couple of sizes too big for him, but he's only 21, I think, so I'm sure he'll grow into it. Plus, I think he played really well, even though he looked fairly nervous, as did Blamire when he came on, but that's what these games are for, I suppose. And I make a note here, 25 minutes in, Smith, Farrell and Slade, they put plenty of width on the ball, but because you got those 3 guys, you kind of know what they're trying to do. You just need 2 of them, whoever they are. 3 is just too many cooks spoiling the broth, as they say. Anyway, I've got a feeling I'm going to be writing about that sort of thing quite a lot. I also got a feeling I'm going to be writing about Freddie Stewart's aerial work a lot in the games to come, but we'll see. On half an hour in, Laws again does some really good handling. A sublime pass puts Jamie George clean through. He gets stopped 10 metres out. And Wright goes just unnecessarily high, gets a yellow. I mean, Australia actually cope with their yellows fairly well, but they're pretty soft yellows. Wright doesn't even try to dip at all, so it's just a kind of a free one, really. Anyway, England go ahead 16-9. Didn't look too dangerous, but you got to dip. Curry continues to carry super well. Like I said, looking a bit like a number 8. England go through a decent patch here with a few 5-metre line-outs. And George bursts off and simply literally has to fall over and score. But as he's falling over, White comes back with a Superman save, dislodges the ball, and George hurts himself. That is a pretty shocking phase of play for Jamie George. So England should be well ahead at this point, but they're not. Australia conceding ground, they're conceding penalties. It's just a bit too easy for England. But anyway, England gift Australia another 3 points. Why not, to keep them in it? That seems to be what they're doing. And at half-time, it's 16-12, so only 4 points in it, even though England seem really in control. The second half starts, and it's Australia first in with the penalty, getting the game back to within 1 point, 16-15, so 1 point game. Despite them being under the pump for a lot of this, it's pretty good returns. A few notes here: England's preferred exits off restart is they either let Freddie Stewart catch the high ball or Tom Curry carry it back. And they actually play a couple of phases to have a look sometimes to see if something's on before they kick. So that's pretty good. And some of England's newbies, Blamire, Rod, like I said, looking a bit nervous. Blamire, 2 poor throws, but he gets into the game. But again, that's why you play these games when it's not a tournament. And another note that Nick White is a class act. His skills are spot on. His game control, his chat is spot on. So confident. You've got to like that guy. 5 minutes later, England swipe a ball off of an Australian maul really easily, too easily, and Johnny Hill gets driven on a full 20 metres, crashing over the line. But a big rule change, of course, is rather than getting a 5-metre scrum for that, they have to start again from a goal line dropout. So that's a pretty big change to the rules in those sorts of situations. But Australia, rather than get back into the game again, do something silly. Bell with a ridiculous tip tackle, absolutely no need for that, gets another yellow, even though the yellows don't seem to be hurting the scoreboard. They can't be helping the Australian cause. Anyway, only 4 points in it still, even though England look well on top. They don't have to do a lot to get penalties off Australia. They get another one on 53 minutes, but Farrell, not a great miss, pulls it wide to the left. Dombrandt shows a bit of class with a catch above his head, a break, inside line to Tuolangi, who busts through back to Dombrandt, and he probably actually does too well because he runs away from his cover and gets turned over. But just a little show of what he can do there. Hooper unfortunately limps off, and this is really Australia's last star player gone. We'll see what they can get out in their last match, but it's not looking good. Really feeling the strain of a long international season for them. And a note here that England's attack, they're definitely trying to offload. The forwards have been told to play with more continuity. It's good to see players, like a Toje, offloading and passing a bit more. Good for them as well, good for the game, although it can be a little loose at times. You see what they're trying to do. It looks like Australia are going to get back to within 1 point again, but another high tackle from Australia overturns that certain 3 points. So Australia should be incredibly close on the scoreboard, even though they're a little bit under the pump, but it's just these penalties they're giving away. Absolutely killer. Tuolangi finds himself on the wing a couple of times, and when he does, it doesn't look great, to be honest. Drops a high ball, a little bit suspect biting and on a tackle. It would just be ridiculous to play him there against South Africa, surely. Let me know if you agree. Australia just starting to force it a bit now, making mistakes. Beale, the first of one really bad drop at crucial times. The scrum is starting to creak as well. England win a penalty, go a bit further ahead, 7 points ahead, 22-15. Farrell goes off injured, then they get to Alangi to 12, which is probably how they should have started anyway. Doesn't look too bad for Farrell, but he may be out, he may not be for next game, we'll see. England are pinching the ball of Australia quite well at this point with 10 minutes to go. get an obstruction penalty, so go 10 points up, 25-15. Quirk's on for his debut, so that's good for him as well. And in the last 15 minutes of the half, England really playing a lot of kicking. It's not the best kicking. They're kind of just kicking for territory, really, not overly competitive. So not a big fan of it, but Australia are making so many mistakes, it doesn't really matter. Sam Simmonds comes on to the blind side, which is where I'd predicted he'd come on. Beale makes another drop. Not a classic, but like I said, they're getting Smith on, Quirk on, Dombrant, Blamire, Rod Stewart. So it is a worthwhile exercise and winning over Australia at the same time. So pretty good in that respect. And Simmonds does get to make his mark. As Australia starts to break, the ball goes loose and bobbles into Simmonds' hands. He bursts up the touchline with some good pace inside to Blamire, who does well to finish. So 32-15 it finishes, an 8th win over Australia. Like I said, England will need to be a lot better against South Africa, a lot slicker, but it's good experience for these new players. Tell me if you think they're going to be able to step up and beat South Africa, because they were looking mighty strong in their traditional strengths against Scotland. Australia just looked to be waning a little bit, struggling with injuries, lots of mistakes. They won't be overly happy. So comments below, let me know what you think, and I will catch you next time.